We looked earlier at clearing an individual log, root, larger root, or fallen tree, just by engaging some under rotation, commitment from the psychological tier, good energy management. Unfortunately, roots don't tend to come in ones, they come in whole bunches. And here we've got a section of roots, so you're leaving one to another, to another, to another. The main thing to remember here is to just keep doing more of the same. Keep projecting ahead of the bike. We don't want to look down at each individual route. We certainly don't want to be trying to pick a better line or other. We need to commit from the entry point and follow our commitment through to the end of the section. Staying nice and light on the bike, allowing the bike to move below us and thinking about what's next. In this case, nice little corner with a bit of a berm on it. There's a common misconception that routes must be crossed perpendicular so your tyre hits them at 90 degrees. In the real world that just doesn't happen. We do have routes that cross the trail straight across, makes things a little easier, but quite a few ascenders, ones that run down the direction of the trail. If we're heavy on the front end and looking down at them, they can easily pick up the front wheel and off it goes in the given direction that the route is pointing in. If I keep my core mass and project where I want to go, I'm going to be driving through that section. The front end's going to be relatively light. I'm driving through the bike and it's going to go where I'm looking and where my hips are pointing and where I want to be, rather than following a sender. Here it's all about getting your speed control right at the top, and rather than trying to change your speed as you drop down steps, to carry that commitment through. In fact, it's easier here to set your speed up at the top and lay off the brakes all the way through the section. There's plenty of room for any braking you might need to do before the corner, but there's a time and a place to do it. And as you're crossing potentially slippery routes, is not the time to do it. Physically and mentally preparing and dealing with a single route on the flat is one thing. When that route is placed at the lip of a downslope, things for many riders start to get a bit overcomplicated in their own mind. And where they'd be happy all day to roll over a route of that size, a little bit of under rotation, it starts screaming their name at them. Eyes drop, position rolls forward slightly, anticipation builds up, and that stiffening of the muscles starts to occur. It may even be that one will hold one's breath at the vital moment, all of which is going to unsettle your position on the bike and stop the energy management that you can utilise working for you. To combat this, we need to think of a couple of different things. From the physical side of things, I need to break this down into an entry, a section and an exit. Some people will perceive the route itself as the entry point. That's where things start to change. But if I leave all my thinking to here, my brain and my body quickly catch each other up and I start to get into a dilemma. Should I, shouldn't I? Brakes, no brakes, look up, look down, look to the sky and pray. What I want to do is bring the entry point away from the lip, so that by the time I get a number of bike lengths away, depending on my speed and confidence, I'm already looking through the section. Now I can't see a small piece of the trail as it goes over the lip, and again that's what freaks a few people out as they approach. But if I look way ahead, through the entry point, through the section and onto the exit, I've got a pretty good idea of where the trail lies ahead of me. I've got my speed control dialed by the time I get through the entry point. I'm not going to be needing to pedal to increase my speed or braking at the last minute. The physical attributes here, you can see some riders where they've been getting a bit tense, not using good energy management. As the front wheel drops down, they get a bit stiff. The bike, if it's suspension, starts to compress and chain rings have been catching. I need to be a bit more dynamic in my body positioning to allow energy management to work. So I'm actually going to shift my weight slightly rear of the saddle as the back wheel engages, creating a pocket in which the saddle can lift up, the back wheel can lift up, and as it does so, I can soften my legs and down on weight slightly. This means the wheel is going to roll up and over rather than slamming into. If either my front wheel or my rear wheel slam into that too heavily, I'm going to get thrown forward just as I want to be prepping for some downhill. Let's have a look, put it all together, thinking about those elements and see what we can do. I'm already looking for my entry point, lining up, and as I go over the lip, a nip behind the saddle, allows the bike to pitch forward without pitching me forward. It's that crucial tuck behind the saddle, very briefly, allows the bike to pitch up. Allowing me to progress unhindered without the bike, front wheel or back wheel, checking and upsetting my position. Having looked at routes on the flatter surface, either single ones or sets of, one of the things that a lot of riders fear the most is routes on a camber. Rider perception often leads people to believe that there isn't going to be any grip there. That the moment their wheels touch that, they're going to be sliding down and off into the murky depths beyond. When it comes to successfully negotiating a series of routes on a camber, various factors play a part. From the physical side, early looking ahead and projecting ahead of the bike gives me my line choice. Looking for the exit. I don't want to look down at these routes as I'm crossing them and end up in the gloop. I want to carry some commitment over the ridge, aim high on the roots and roll nice and smoothly and freely across. So looking is a big factor, but more than just looking, projecting ahead of the bike. Another physical attribute that's going to be really important here is speed control. If I dawdle across these routes and use a little bit of brake on them, it's going to be easier for my wheel to slip down them than it is to roll across them. That's exactly what's going to happen. So setting my speed up early before the entry point to this section allows me to roll through the section maintaining a good speed, neither too fast nor too slow. As I cross the routes, energy management is going to start to play a bigger part. If I'm heavy on top of the bike and I tense up and tighten up with fear, I'm going to stop the front wheel from lifting up and over these routes, and similarly with the back. I'm going to start to bounce around with the bike rather than allowing the bike to move below me. By thinking ahead of the bike and preparing mentally early, I'm going to be more relaxed. I'm going to be in more emotional control, and that's going to allow my body to remain softer and less of the fight and flight instincts we looked at in previous editions to kick in, and the bike is going to move more freely. My flow is going to be less disrupted, and I'm going to smooth out these routes as I roll across them.